So Robert Jenrick said Nigel Farridge can't even run a five-a-side football team as he criticised Reform UK in leaked audio from last year. And then he went and joined that five-a-side football team. Robert, Ticket Inspector General, defected to Reform on Thursday, declaring the country needs Mr Farridge. Which is interesting because the same Nigel Farridge said of Robert Jenrick on X last August, Jenrick is a fraud. I've always thought so. And Farridge welcomed the man he called a fraud with open arms and open, always gaping mouth. Seriously, does that man ever close his gob? It's like the entrance to the Dartford Tunnel.
I'm a nutcase.
So Farridge thought Jenrick was a fraud, and Jenrick said Farridge couldn't run a five-a-side football team, so how could he run a country? And now they're locked in a bromance clinch. The fraud and the flop united in the love of power and money. They're made for each other. Name me two less likeable people in politics. One spends time in other countries trashing this country for money, and the other sidles up to a donor friend and saves him £40 million community infrastructure levy on a property development that could have gone to build schools and health clinics and instead stayed on the balance sheets of a billionaire donor to Jenrick's party. And who then had the nerve to film himself accosting people who said he hadn't bought their train ticket. Really concentrating on the small stuff to try to make us forget about the big stuff there. I mean, personally, I would have been more interested if Robert Jenrick had filmed himself trying to force property developers to pay the £40 million community infrastructure levy due on their developments, rather than hurrying after someone who hadn't paid their £3 train ticket for likes on social media. But, you know, that's me, I suppose. So the ticket inspector has waltzed off to the party of used Tories. It's like a dumping ground for the ineffectual and unlovely, a sort of last resort for the shameless, a place where reputations go to die. There's just the clinging stench of desperation about a lot of them. As though this is the last chance of making it in the lying business before they have to go out and, you know, get a real job.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
Just last March, the ticket inspector Jenrick said that Farridge could not run a five-a-side team, so he's not going to be able to run a country, and that Reform were not a serious party.
Nigel Farridge is not fit and proper to be in government.
They're not a serious party, he said. They are not the answer. But it seems now they are a serious party, and they are the answer. I hope you're keeping up with this. They're the answer to the question, once you realise you're not going to make it to the top of one party, you switch to another and see how you do there. And to hell with the people who elected you as a Tory, because you've changed the hue of your blue rosette to pretend that you've changed as a person. And now Ticket Inspector Jenrick would like to distance himself from himself. All those things he said before about Farridge and Reform, he doesn't believe now. I mean, you trust him, don't you? Why wouldn't you? And there he was, sitting beside the oily charlatan in Union Jack socks at a Westminster press conference. Inspector Jenrick urged others to rally behind Nigel and Reform right now. He said, it does not take me one blink of an eyelid to say to you that I want Nigel to be our Prime Minister after the next general election, he said. That is the only way we will save our country, and so patriotic people who share my views will have to rally behind Nigel and Reform right now, said Robert Ticket Inspector Jenrick. Straight out with the patriotism garbage, eh? The implication being that you are not a patriot and you do not love your country if you don't follow Jenrick to the dark side. Well, I have a different opinion. I have a different take on patriotism. Here's what it is not. It's not going abroad to take money from foreigners to trash this country. It's not sowing fear about invasions of brown-faced people, and it's not lying about how bad London is in order to con people who never come to London into thinking it's a hellhole. That tune is, it both lasts too long and not quite long enough. I'd say that was the opposite of patriotism, all of the things I just yelled over our national tune. But we shouldn't be surprised, because Reform is absolutely stuffed with people who used to represent the Conservative Party, and then when it looked like their income was at stake, they fled the sinking ship. And what is it that flees a sinking ship?